Well, tonight is the night. In about 1 hour, which we will cover here on News Radio 102.5 WFLA, we're going to cover the president. He's basically going to be sitting there, figuratively, of course. He's going to be sitting there, and he's going to have the Constitution in one hand, and he's going to have an automatic shredder on his desk, and he's going to put that Constitution in a shredder, and it's going to shred, and that's basically what he's doing. Whether you want to admit it or not, that is basically what is happening. As most of you know, because you are listeners of this station, in about an hour, Obama's going to make an announcement that basically gives amnesty to 5 million illegal immigrants. They're going to be put under deferred status, and they will be put in a path towards legalization. Now, of course, this is without securing the border. This is without any act by Congress, any legislation by Congress. This is just him doing this by executive fiat, as most of you know, which, of course, he has no constitutional authority to do. And yet he's going to do it anyways, because that's what he does. And I'm not exactly shocked. By the way, when I say this is Michael Yaffee. I'm also the producer of Bud Henninger Live, which I'm sure most of you listen to here every morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., but now you are listening to a special edition of my show, Beyond Reason, in which I try to go through the news and talk about everything that is completely beyond reason, try to be your voice of reason through it all. And by the way, I'm here with my buddy, Tom Benson, who is in the control room right now. Hey, Tom, how's it going, man?
It's going, and it's going to be a fun night, I think.
A fun night? Yeah, that's a word for it. Fun. Yeah, fun is definitely the word for it. Basically, I could talk about all the things that Obama's going to do, how it's unconstitutional, but most people have talked about that. But I was thinking, why? I'm driving my car on the way here, and I'm thinking, why is Obama doing this? Why? Because Obama does this, when he says he's going to do this, he's been saying, well, Congress hasn't acted, so I have to. Because Congress hasn't acted, I have to. Why do you have to? Why do you have to act? He's going to say, well, it's for the good of the people. I have to act for the good of the people. I want somebody out there to call me and tell me. Call me and tell me how giving amnesty to millions of illegal immigrants helps you. Obama's saying he's doing this for you. He's saying he's doing this for the good of the people, for the good of the country. So, now, obviously, if you're an illegal immigrant and you're listening, yeah, this helps you. This is good for you, I guess. But if you're an American citizen in this country, a legal voting American citizen in this country, I want you to call in and I want you to tell me, how does this help you? How does this help you as an American citizen? What does giving amnesty to millions of illegal immigrants, how does that help the country, and how does that help you personally? Because I frankly don't know. I can't think of one reason how it helps me as an American citizen to have millions of illegal immigrants legalized without any border security to go along with it. Now, I know the real reason Obama wants to do this, of course, and it's one word. Texas. What do you mean by Texas? That's a state. Yes, very good for those who are listening and informed. Texas, the state on the border, the Democrats' dream. They're salivating right now, by the way, waiting for Obama to do this, because the Democrats' ultimate political dream right now is to turn Texas blue. And this is a way that they think they can do it. If they can put millions of illegal immigrants on the path to eventually becoming legalized and eventually becoming citizens, that's the goal, and eventually become voters, they know that the vast majority of them will vote Democrat. So you have a huge state in Texas where a lot of these illegal immigrants are, and Texas usually goes red. It's usually a red state in the presidential election. It's usually a Republican state. But the Democrats want to change that. They want to use those many electoral votes and get that state to vote Democrat. It's all about votes. And it's all about, because they know if Texas turns blue, they will win the presidential election for the next maybe 20, 30 years if Texas turns blue. So I ask you again, as an American citizen, I guess if you're a Democrat, maybe that's why you like Obama doing this. But as an American citizen, because Obama's doing this, he says he's doing it for you. That's what the demagogues, the tyrants, that's what they always say. When they take more power for themselves, they always say, well, I'm doing this for the good of the country. Congress won't act and something must be done and I have to do this for the good of the people. How does this help me? Because I don't know. To me, it doesn't help me at all. It doesn't help the border agents on the border. It doesn't help the economy. Whether you want to admit it or not, it doesn't help the economy at all. All it does is depress wages and creates unemployment for real, Americans in the workforce who want to get decent paying jobs legally. So it doesn't help the economy. So how does it help anybody but the Democrat Party? How does it help anybody but the Democrat Party? The point is it doesn't. And I'm not very shocked that Obama did this. People might be very shocked. How could Obama do this? He's violating the Constitution. He doesn't have the authority under Article 1 of the Constitution to do this. This is Congress's job. You're that shocked? The only shocking thing is that we elected this guy to another term. That's the only shocking thing. I'm not shocked by this. Did you forget one of the most unconstitutional things in this country's history that was basically promoted by Obama and passed by Obama and the Democrat Party? Obamacare? Take out your Constitution right now or Google it. Many of you out there probably maybe don't have a pocket one in your pocket or something, so it's okay. Get out your cell phone, Google the United States Constitution, and tell me where in the Constitution does it give Congress, the federal government, the authority to do anything that's in Obamacare. In the enumerated powers to Congress and the federal government, there is nothing to do with health care. And yet Obamacare basically creates that individual mandate. It's not in the Constitution, unconstitutional. Creates federal-controlled health exchanges. That's not in the Constitution. None of that's in the Constitution. The whole thing is unconstitutional. And even though the Supreme Court the Supreme Court says it is, and they got around it by saying, well, it's actually a tax. So that's how it's constitutional, the individual mandate. The whole bill is unconstitutional. So you have that guy who promoted that and passed healthcare, which is, usually commonly given his name, Obamacare. You have that guy pass that, and you're shocked that he is taking executive action on immigration, on illegal immigration? It's not shocking at all. I saw this coming. And now he's a lame duck. So, he's out in 2 years. He doesn't care. It's all about turning Texas blue, all about creating Democrat voters. And the worst part about all this is it can be stopped by Congress. Congress has the authority under the power of, finances in this country or the power of the purse. Congress has the authority to defund anything Obama does. Will they do it? No. They're not going to do it. They're chicken. They're chicken. Because our leadership, the Republican leadership, is Mitch McConnell and John Boehner, who have both said they're not going to do anything on this. They're not going to shut the government down. Because last time they shut the government down, I guess the mainstream media blamed them for it, which my response to that is who cares? You just won a landslide election across the country, and you care of being blamed for it? Obviously, it's not that important to the American people if you are able to win landslide electoral victories. So the shutdown wasn't that big of a deal. But it wouldn't be you shutting down the government anyways. You could fund everything else, just don't fund this executive action on illegal immigration. Fund everything else and put it on Obama's desk, and then if he vetoes it, he's the one shutting the government down, not you. That's how you have to frame it. But they're not going to do it. And a lot of it's because they're chicken, and a lot of it's because, they're the crony crony capitalist Republicans who are backed by, groups like the Chamber of Commerce who love the idea of these illegal immigrants. They love the idea of this cheap labor. Big business loves the idea of this cheap labor. Who cares if it's terrible for the country? They want the money that they can get from the cheap labor. So you have the Chamber of Commerce, one group. You have Mark Zuckerberg's another one of Facebook. He's promoting this. I mean, he was great with Facebook, but you're wrong on this, Mark. I don't know why. And by the way, I still want your calls. And the phone number, I never gave out the phone number, did I? The phone number is 407-674-1025, 407-674-1025. And I want you to call in and tell me how this executive order giving amnesty to illegal immigrants, how does that help you as an American citizen? How does that help you personally as an American citizen? Because Obama says he's doing it for you, for the good of the people. It's a bunch of baloney. And as most of you know. And the Republican Party's too scared. And Republican Party, most of the Republicans, they're not upset that he's doing this. They're upset that he's doing it on his own. There's a lot of Republicans wanting to pass bills that are similar to what Obama's doing. Paul Ryan, I've seen editorials all over the place by Republicans like Paul Ryan that want to pass their own version of basically what Obama is doing. So they don't mind what he's doing, they just mind how he's doing it and that they're not involved. So the Republicans are scared. They're in the pockets of the Chamber of Commerce and other groups like that to get the cheap labor. And for some reason they're convinced that if they do this along with the president, that they'll get a lot of these illegals to vote Republican and get a lot of Hispanics to vote Republican, which is historically not accurate. Every time they passed amnesty in the past, more of those Hispanics voted Democrat, not Republican. It's totally inaccurate. And then I found a poll from the Wall Street Journal NBC journal poll, 43% supporting, only 43% of Latinos support what Obama's going to do. 37% oppose it. That's not a huge number of support and a huge number of opposition. What does that tell me? It tells me that to get the Hispanic vote, to get the Latino vote in this country, you don't have to pass amnesty for illegal immigrants. If you're a Republican, there are other ways to get that vote. Also, by a margin of 56% to 40%, Hispanic voters oppose allowing illegal immigrants to obtain federal benefits, including Obamacare. So it's a lie that's being passed that the Republicans have to pass amnesty in order to get the Latino vote and the Hispanic vote. So I ask you one more time, as an American citizen, how does this help you? How does this help you? Because he says he's doing it for you. 407-674-1025. I'm going to take your calls right when we get back and give you more details, including the border agents, the people that are on the border seeing this. They are very upset about this. They're on the front lines. They know what's going to happen when Obama does this, and they're not happy about that. I'll give you those details next. You are listening to Beyond Reason with me, Michael Yaffee, here on News Radio 102.5 WFLA. You are listening to Beyond Reason with your host, Michael Yaffee. That's me, of course. I'm also the producer of Bud Hedinger Live, the morning show on this station, News Radio 102.5, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Right after the show, we're going to play Obama's speech in which he announces basically amnesty for 5 million or up to 11 million illegal immigrants. He's going to put them under deferred status, prevent them from being deported. And I basically asked you, and I'm going to still ask you, 407-674-1025, how does this help you as the average American citizen? How does this help you? I have some more details about what the border guards are saying about this. They're not happy about this. There's many reasons. But first, I want to take your calls, and I got to take Dusty and Apopka first. He's like one of my favorite people and one of my biggest fans out there, and I have to put him on first. Dusty, how is it going, sir?
I'm doing well, Mike. It's nice to talk to you again. And yes, I am. I am one of your biggest fans. I love listening to you.
Oh, I appreciate that, Dusty. Every time I post him on Twitter, he's right there, and you post some great stuff too. So I love it.
I appreciate that. My biggest question is, if this goes through, that changes the entire aspect of what makes us citizens.
How does it do that?
That makes pretty much everybody in the world a citizen of, hey, you want to be American? Okay, you're an American. Bam, just like that.
Yeah.
There's no distinction between us and everybody else.
That's a good point. There's no sovereignty. There's no American sovereignty. You know, I often ask people because they feel bad for the illegal immigrants. They just want to work and they want to work hard. There's 6 billion people in the world. Should we just let them all in? Let's just let all 6 billion people in because we're the richest country and most people in the world probably want to live here. So let's just let them all in. Everybody come in. Yeah, it'll be fine. No, it would hurt the country.
Worked out so well for everybody else.
Well, yeah, just look at Europe and Britain. They're being overrun by Islamic extremists because of their loose immigration policy. So that shows that stuff like that could happen here. Dusty, you're awesome. I thank you for calling in, my friend.
Hey, thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, man. Yeah, and by the way, I always post stuff on Twitter, and I just posted a comment. You can follow me on Twitter at Michael Yaffee. That's Michael, Yaffee. A lot of the listeners think Bud calls me Yappy. It's not Yappy, it's Yaffee. My last name's Yaffee. So Michael Yaffee. See, even I just did it. Michael Yaffee. And by the way, follow the station on Facebook. Like us on Facebook at WFLA Orlando. I'm always posting good stuff on there as well. So let me take another call here on Obama deciding to basically shred the Constitution. I think that's what he basically should do tonight. He doesn't even have to say a word. Just get in his desk. He has one of those automatic shredders above the trash can, and he's like, I have the Constitution and a shredder. And he puts it in, and then that goes, and then he leaves. I mean, it's basically what he wants to do anyway. It's what he thinks about the Constitution. I believe a lot of what he's done is unconstitutional. They don't revere the Constitution. It's in their way, I think, is what they look at it. You know, he says he has a pen and he has a phone, and he's going to do what he's going to do. Well, we have the Constitution, and that's going to stop you from doing what you're going to do, Obama. Bob from Longwood, you have a comment on this, my friend?
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I'm sick and tired of this guy in the White House sticking his finger in my eye, your eye, and the American people's eye. This country was built on a melting pot, right? He's a racist. I'm going to tell you why. He's letting all these people come through the border, right? The Latinos, right? But what about the English? What about the Asians, the Filipinos, and everything like that? Like, they pay money to come to this country.
Yeah, he doesn't want them.
He's a racist.
Yeah, but see, the white man in those countries, they're rich, and it's time for them to be put down to size. And we need to let the Latinos in because, according to him, the Latinos have been persecuted by the white man. And it's time for the white man to get his revenge and the Latinos to get back what is theirs. That's what he thinks. Of course, it's totally inaccurate. What?
We asked the Latinos, right, if they wanted California and everything, right? They didn't want it back in the times.
Well, I mean,
they would have had better jobs and everything like that.
Right.
They refused it.
Yeah, and thanks for your call, Bob. And the Mexican, the Mexican War, the American-Mexican War, we could have taken pretty much all of Mexico, and we decided not to. We pulled out and gave them what they have today. So we could have just taken the whole thing. And I think maybe a lot of Mexicans would agree, maybe we should have, because they probably, if they were part of the United States, it would probably be in a lot better condition than they are today. But that's why Obama's doing, you're right. He doesn't want any Europeans to come here. They've already had their chance. The rich white man needs to be brought back down to size. They need to stop being imperialists and impressing the other countries. That's what he believes. He doesn't revere the Constitution in these other countries. Come on. One more call here. Mike from Orlando. You have a comment on this, my friend?
Yes, good evening, Yaffee. It's a little 12 hours later than I normally call you, but to answer your first question, this will do absolutely nothing for me as a U.S. citizen.
Right, yeah, I asked the question to anyone out there. I haven't got an answer yet. How does this help you as an American citizen? Because he says he's doing it for you, and because Congress won't act, so I want to know how it helps you.
Yes, and my health care premiums went down. Not.
Yeah,
and
right.
Everything else he said, not. Now, what I will tell you what I've done tonight, I just joined the NRA with a 5-year membership, and I just paid it in full. I just logged in and joined FreedomWorks, and I joined
FreedomWorks is awesome.
Conservative movement. And I'd like to share what I'm really infuriated about. Now, I'm not mad or upset with the president, because when you swim with sharks, you expect to get bit. And we know who he is and what
Well, and I said I wasn't shocked. I'm only shocked that we voted this guy in another term. Actually, I wasn't even that shocked that we did that. I predicted that he was going to win, especially when Romney was the candidate against him. But go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
No, you're doing fine. Now, what I am very upset with is those fake Republicans who pretend
Exactly.
to be upset.
Yeah, they're not upset.
Boehner, McConnell, and the other rhinos or progressive lights who pretend to be upset.
Well, they basically want what Obama's doing. They're just upset that they're not a part of it. But they want this. And that's what's sad.
The Republicans pretend to be the protector of the Constitution when in closed doors they're right there patting them on the back saying, thank you for doing this yourself. We're going to give you lip service and say how bad you are, but we're right behind you. We will not impeach. We will not defund. And they're waiting for their shot at power to pay everyone back in spades. Just like
and you're exactly right. Thanks for the call, Mike. In which they will not change anything that Obama's doing. Like I said before, they want this too. At least the Republican leadership. Now, there are some great Republicans there, and hopefully we need to give the real conservative Republicans those leadership positions and take back the Republican Party. I mean, that's really one of the answers. Not the answer, but one of the answers that would help this country and stop progressivism from just taking over this country. Still haven't had a call of how this helps the normal American citizen, how amnesty for illegal immigrants helps a normal American citizen. I had to give you this detail. I found this on the Hill. We're not the only ones, you and me are not the only ones ticked at what Obama's doing. Turns out the Border Patrol is really not happy. Gee, I wonder why. Maybe because his last executive order allowing many kids of illegal immigrants to be here encouraged many illegal immigrants from Central America, the kids, to come here, and a huge influx. We've had thousands this year, influx of illegal immigrant children get here. We don't know what to do with them, and the Border Patrol is the first ones who have to deal with that. And they're overwhelmed. They're not funded enough. They're not getting the support from Congress or the president to stop this. And the Border Patrol, some Border Patrol agents were asked, and he basically said, we're all pretty much ticked. He said, when Washington discusses immigration reform, it seems like business and advocacy groups are closely involved, while professional immigration agents with real-world experience facing our nation are not heard. Fundamentally, I would implore you to consider this issue from the perspective of our officers who risk their lives every day in a constant uphill climb to uphold the laws of the land. He basically says, we are going to see what I'm seeing here on the border in larger and larger numbers, which is a huge increase in illegal immigration coming across the border. An amnesty order is going to create for more people an incentive to come into the U.S. By the way, all those people are not just people wanting work. It's also very violent gang members, drug runners, possibly Islamic extremists, and ISIS. They're going to come here as well. Seems like, from everything I'm reading and everything I hear, it seems like this does nothing but hurt the average American citizen, which is what Obama says he's doing this for. And he's not. So we'll hear his speech at 8 o'clock. We're going to have it here on News Radio 102.5. We're going to play his speech live, and if we have time, maybe we'll take your calls after. You are listening to Beyond Reason with Michael Yaffee here on News Radio 102.5. You are listening to Beyond Reason with me, your host, Michael Yaffee. I'm also the producer of Bud Hedinger Live, which is on this station, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., so I hope you guys listen to that every morning. I've been talking, obviously, about Obama's coming executive action to give amnesty to millions of illegal immigrants, and I've been taking calls, and I asked for calls on how it helps the average American citizen. Haven't really heard a good answer yet, so I'm not, probably because there isn't one. But we're going to also play that speech on the station right after this show, on here right after this show, and maybe take your calls after if there is time. But I want to take a call, and then I'm going to move on to another huge topic that's in the news. That's, of course, the Michael Brown case, because the grand jury decision, they say it could come down this week to see if they're going to convict Officer Darren Wilson. So we'll see. First, Elaine in Orlando. How are you this evening?
I'm good, Mike. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad you're listening.
You betcha. I wanted to just make a couple of comments. Number one, the amnesty is going to do nothing for me or anyone I know who are American citizens. And number two, I think what he's doing is just like a huge slap in the face to all those immigrants who came here and did things the right way.
Well, yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah, it's like,
why do it the right way? You don't have to.
Right. And the other thing is, is he going to, the illegals that come over and, get in our ERs, our hospitals, our ICUs, and then
they're going to flood all of them. They're already flooding. The children of illegals are already flooding the public schools, especially in places like Texas.
Exactly. So that's going to mean less beds for American citizens who, have lived here all their lives
and have contributed to the system. These illegals haven't contributed to the system.
Exactly.
But they're,
they're all those dollars. Yep. Sucking up all those dollars in the ICU and the man hours and, the nursing care that rightfully belongs to them.
That is an excellent point. Thank you for your call, Elaine. And, it's already happening in Florida. Thousands of illegal immigrant children are in Florida right now. Thousands of illegal immigrants in Florida. They're going to be in our public schools. They're going to be trying to get welfare benefit. I mean, I understand that a lot of them just want to work and want opportunity. But we're a sovereign nation with laws, and when they come here, they break our laws, including the minimum wage laws, which depress wages, which hurts the economy, hurts national security. It's not good for the average American citizen. That's the answer to the question. There is no answer. It's not good. Obama's not doing this for you. All right, the other big thing in the news this week is obviously what's going on in Ferguson, Missouri. And Michael Brown, was killed by the officer Darren Wilson. There are those out there, of course, many of the protesters who ended up rioting and destroying part of that city, saying Michael Brown didn't do anything wrong, he had his hands up, was killed. Officer Darren Wilson and other witnesses actually have come out and said, no, there was a fight. Michael Brown charged at Darren Wilson, and the officer was scared for his life, obviously, and shot him to bring him down. And by the way, I was talking to a cop one day about this, because a lot of the concern is, well, why did you have to shoot him so many times? And the cop says, there's a common misconception. It's not like the movies where you shoot them once and they just fall down. They'll keep coming after you, especially when that adrenaline's running. So a cop is trained to keep shooting until that person's down. So that's why there'll be a lot of shots in a situation like this. If Michael Brown was running towards him and the cop was scared, he's going to keep shooting until Michael Brown, a big guy, is down. So that was another thing that's interesting. But I keep hearing, there's the protesters or the rioters, there's groups, there's like Al Sharpton. They're going to riot if this officer isn't convicted because they believe this is not fair. Tell me why this isn't fair. Would somebody please tell me why this isn't fair? Is Officer Darren Wilson isn't the case in front of a grand jury like any other case? Was there not evidence displayed on both sides? And by the way, even liberals are admitting that they've allowed all the evidence in this grand jury case to be shown. They've allowed all the evidence to be shown. So if there's evidence against Darren Wilson, it has been put forward. So if Darren Wilson is not convicted, the grand jury does not indict him, then what's not fair? Isn't that how our justice system works? The evidence is displayed. But people are saying, oh, it's not fair. It's racist white people, racist white cops. It's completely fair. Wouldn't you want, if you were that officer, one of these protesters, if you were that officer, wouldn't you want the evidence to be displayed? Wouldn't you want a grand jury? And if the evidence doesn't show it, then you don't get convicted. That's how the system works. What kind of system do you want? Do you want it like in Revolution, during the French Revolution, where they just drag the guy out, throw him under the guillotine, and cut off his head? Is that what you want here? Is that what you want for our country? No, see, everything has been completely fair. And by the way, if the evidence shows Darren Wilson is guilty, then he should be tried and convicted. That's how our system works. So I just don't buy this whole argument that it's not fair. It's been completely fair. But unfortunately, there are those out there who don't care about the truth. They divide us. People like Al Sharpton, they divide us on racial lines for their own power and for politics. That's why Obama's getting involved, for politics. They're dividing us over politics. That's right. You're just pawns in their game. All these protesters out there, all these rioters, you're just pawns in a political game. A lot of times you give more votes for the Democrat Party. You're just pawns in a dividing political game. But there is hope out there. There is hope that maybe, just maybe, we are moving past some of these racial divisions. So because some prominent black entertainers, black sports players, black politicians have come out and said, no, we can't do this. Blacks cannot just riot every time something like this happens. Yes, if the officer's convicted, but the evidence has been shown, and it's in front of a grand jury. It's not like they just let him off scot-free. So what's not fair? And I found this cut, which I'm going to have Tom play in a second. This is from, of all people, Cedric the Entertainer. He's not a conservative right-winger. And he makes some points that, yeah, there has been history in this country of blacks being persecuted by cops, and that's why stuff like this can happen. But he says a very interesting comment that I think makes a lot of sense and which shows that it is fair. Listen to what he says. It's very interesting.
All for that Darren Wilson situation. I really want the truth and the facts to come out. It appears to be a little posturing in the sense that you kind of instantly divide lines. The police has a side, and then the victim has a side, and people are not really trying to find out what the truth of the matter is. And I think that's the most important aspect here, and that justice served. If this guy was, the police, shot and didn't do it with the, probable cause and all the right, proper etiquette as a police officer, then, he should face the same kind of consequence that a citizen would.
So he basically says, look, if he's guilty, yes, he should face consequences. But what's happening here is we're being divided. We've automatically divided ourselves on he's guilty, he's innocent, and not either side cares about the truth. And he says, let the evidence go forward and let's care about the truth. Seems very reasonable to me. We have to get to a point, this stuff I get really passionate about stuff like this because racism to me is so stupid. I don't look at your race. I look at you as an individual. An individual. We're all individuals with different gifts given to us by God, our Creator. As individuals, not as a race. Technically, we're all shades of brown anyways. But racism, to me, never made any sense. So I wish we could get to a point in this country where we just don't care about race on either side. We care about the truth and look at each other as individuals. But you have people out there, the Al Sharptons of the world and the Obamas of the world, they're dividing us based on politics and power. And we're just pawns in this game. We're just pawns in a game of back and forth. Stop with that. And I found this story here. This is another thing where we're being divided based on race. And what it is, it's creating more racism is what it is. There was the Minneapolis public schools. They have agreed to reduce the disparity in punishment of black students by 25% by the end of the school year, and then by 50%, 75%, and finally 100% in each of the following years. In other words, there are now racial quota limits for punishment in the Minneapolis schools. It's basically saying, look, even if there are blacks that are guilty and deserve to be punished, we're going to have these quotas and we're not going to punish them as much. To me, that's racist. And you know what? It's not racist against whites. It's racist against blacks. Because what they're basically telling you as a black person is that you're less of a person, so we're going to try not to punish you as hard. We're not going to hold you to the same standards as we are a white person. That's basically what they're saying. We're not going to hold you to the same standards. You would think an individual black would want to be held to the same standards as a white person because they find themselves equal as a white person. But this is racist towards you, blacks, in those schools. It's racist towards you because it basically makes you look like less of a person. Saying, no, we're not going to hold you to the same standards. If you commit the crimes, yeah, well, that's because you're black, and we have to make sure we have racial quotas. So how is that not racist? And yet, there's a lot of racial leaders out there who will think this is great. This is a step forward for African Americans. How is it a step forward? It's a step backwards because it makes you, as a black person, look like less of a person. Why don't we all just be treated equally? Isn't that the dream? Seems to make common sense to me, but this isn't common sense. This isn't common sense. This is once again dividing us over politics. And speaking on this subject as well, I have one more cut to play. And I just happened to find this. This is Morgan Freeman. I try to give you hope in this program. I try not to just constantly complain. And I want to give you hope that there is hope, that some of these racial divides are changing and it's getting better. But we have to be on guard and we have to push people like what Morgan Freeman's going to do here and say, look, there is opportunity. Let's all treat each other as individual Americans. Seems to make sense to me. And this is very interesting because Morgan Freeman he's asked by a black reporter who seems shocked by Morgan Freeman's answer. But he's asked basically, are blacks, do they have equal opportunity in this country? Morgan Freeman's answer is interesting.
Do you think that race plays a part in wealth distribution or either a mindset that you can't
Today?
or cannot? Yeah.
No.
You don't?
No, I don't. You and I, we're proof. Why would race have anything to do with it? Put your mind to what you want to do and go for that. It's kind of like religion to me. It's a good excuse for not getting there.
Yeah.
Wow. It's amazing. He's asked, look, are blacks treated so badly and that's why there's, basically he's saying, can blacks not get ahead because of their race? And Morgan Freeman's like, no. No, that's a good excuse, but it doesn't work anymore in today's society. He's admitting that today's society is a lot better, that we don't need to be divided by these racial terms. So when you look at the racist stuff, and you look at the Michael Brown case, let's be like basically what Cedric the Entertainer said. I never thought I would say those words. But let's be like Cedric the Entertainer said, and let's go after the truth. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of those comments? 407-674-1025. I have some interesting cuts from a college campus where they ask them about their concerns over global warming, and I guess I'm convinced now. I guess I'm convinced of the reality of global warming. We'll hear that. You're listening to Beyond Reason with me, Michael Yaffee, News Radio 102.5. You are listening to Beyond Reason with your host, Michael Yaffee. By the way, programming note, as I mentioned before, right after this show at 8 o'clock, we are going to play the president's speech live on basically his executive order for amnesty. We're going to play that live, so you'll want to stay tuned after this show to listen to that. And by the way, follow me on Twitter at Michael Yaffee. Follow the station on Twitter at News Radio 102.5. Like us on Facebook at WFLA Orlando. Lots of great stuff. I've already commented on Twitter and got some comments back, so good stuff. So I have some cuts here from the University of California, Santa Barbara. And a girl goes around and asks them about global warming. Oh, what goes on in our college campuses. But the responses are classic. So I had to play have to play them. And basically, you know, there was a cut where they asked, do you believe in global warming? And of course they all do, because they're college kids and their professors tell them, and they're like, okay. And then this is an interesting one. What are your concerns about global warming and climate change? And listen to this.
Now, is there steps that you take to reduce your global and carbon footprint?
Yeah, actually, I live 15 miles from school, and I ride my bike to school every day. And
this is baloney.
I have a car, but I don't use it unless I'm picking up groceries far away, and even then I'll try and ride my motorcycle. So
I don't drive a car. I bike and skateboard and walk.
I'm vegan.
Yeah, I know.
Shorter showers, stuff like that.
Ew.
I, bike everywhere. Use my body for most things. Less, relying on different resources. Try to do the most I can, just with myself.
All right, so there's what they're doing. Actually, Tom, I actually do need that first cut. Can you go to the folder? I actually did want to play one of the first cuts too, where they're asked, do they believe in global warming, and then they're asked about their concerns, and it's great. So it should be in my folder, audio cuts. I know I'm doing. Yeah, this is like behind the scenes stuff here. Yeah, can you find it? But yeah, basically, I mean that's all baloney. Oh, I'm gonna take less showers to help save the planet. I like fluorescent light bulbs. The problem I have with fluorescent light bulbs, I mean, they work longer. They're great. I want to use them. The thing is, don't insult my intelligence and tell me that by using a fluorescent light bulb, I'm saving the planet. Come on. Yeah, they might be more energy efficient, but don't tell me I'm saving the planet. A light bulb that's most likely being shipped and made in China is saving the environment? Come on. It's just, but this is what college kids are taught. I have a story here, by the way, about global warming that is just. Oh, first, you found that cut for me. There's a response in this cut, and this is my fault, Tom. I screwed up which cuts to play. The response in one of these cuts about concerns in global warming is classic. Go ahead and play that.
So do you think that global warming is one of the biggest issues the world faces today?
I most definitely do, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
I would say it's a pretty big threat, water rising, us drowning.
He sounds so concerned.
It truly is.
I personally believe that way, yes.
I would, yes. Yeah, I'd say that climate issues are a significant factor in that.
And what would you say is your biggest concern about global warming?
That's going to get really hot. And you're going to have to, need AC all the time and a lot more power, and our solar panel technology is not what it should be right now.
Well, I'm in a class right now that's what we're talking about, and pretty much the world's not going to be able to support us for very much longer.
I think that it affects every one of us. I think we can tell every day that the temperatures are getting warmer, and
can't you tell every day, every America out there, can you tell every day that the temperature is getting warmer? We're having almost record colds across the country in November. Come on. But the cut of the year is the kid who's, well, what are your major concerns about global warming? Well, it's going to get hot. Well, I guess, yeah. I got to put on the AC more. Oh, no. No, not the AC more. It's going to get hot. And then they're asked later, I'm not going to play the cut, but they're asked later, what they think about people who don't buy into it, and they're basically like, oh, they're stupid. Well, I'm one of those stupid people, I guess. I mean, don't get me wrong. I always tell people I'm praying for global warming. I was hoping for it because I hate the cold. I hate it. I would want it to get warmer. I was praying for it. But before we go, I wanted to get to this. What was the first debate in global warming in this country? This tells you all about this stupid global warming debate. It was between Thomas Jefferson and Noah Webster in 1799. That's right. In 1799, Thomas Jefferson believed, and others, that deforestation was causing global warming. And they had debates on it. In 1799, Thomas Jefferson believed this. They had debates on it. Deforestations, they just noticed that some of the winters were warmer. And they're like, well, it must be us. We must be doing something. What does this tell you? In 1799, this is happening. And by the way, Noah Webster was like, yeah, your facts are all wrong. I think you're going a little overboard. You don't really know what you're talking about. He was, I guess, the global warming denier of the day, Noah Webster. But I couldn't believe it. It was fascinating. I was reading a book about Noah Webster, and they just happened to mention that. And I'm like, wait, what? The point is, the climate is always changing. It's always going back and forth. When they're having debates about it in 1799, it shows that the climate has cycles. It goes warm. It goes cold. It's been like that through the history of the planet. And yet, we're arrogant enough, even 200 years ago, and still today, we're arrogant enough to believe that man is the cause. I mean, according to Thomas Jefferson, global warming is late. It is really late. It got here late. It was supposed to be happening in 1799, 1800. Now we're having it? No. If that doesn't give you perspective on history and show you that these debates are always happening in the history of this country, they're always going like this, and it's just silly, and nothing ever happens. The disaster never happens. There's record cold across the country right now. It's not happening. All right, I appreciate you guys listening tonight to Beyond Reason. I'm going to talk to you guys tomorrow morning on Bud Henninger Live. Coming up next at 8 o'clock, the president shredding the Constitution and giving his speech for amnesty. We're going to cover that live right here on News Radio 102.5. Catch you guys tomorrow morning.
Sleep, I had to listen to a car.